If you don't mind, please introduce yourself and what it is you do within the beer industry.
Well, my name is Has. I'm also known as the beer professor, which is my nickname granted to me once a long time ago. I started working in a beer bar in Nijmegen, in the Netherlands, where I'm from, about 2002. Started to teach myself about beer, and eventually I became the cellarman there. Did the beer buying and stuff like that, and made a beer book for my colleagues so they could tell something about the beers as well. And basically that was it. And yeah, just in 2013, me with a colleague of mine, we started this business, bierproeven.nu and bierbewustzijn.nl, which translates roughly to beer tasting and beer awareness. Those are two companies. I'll just put in the links of the names of my company in the background. Yeah, we started out with this one, a beer proof. Just you have a party, you invite us, we come over with some beer, we do a presentation, tell you all about it, all about the history, the background, stuff like that. And that was the business model basically, until we started delving out further in the area of beer. We devised a bit of a training, it's over here on the top, for people working in cafe, bar, restaurants to to train their beer vocabulary. Because it used to be specialized beer pubs in the Netherlands that sold, where you went to if you want to try special beers, and the rest of the bars, they all had regular beer and maybe one or two Belgians and stuff like that. But for proper Belgian beers and the German beers, you went to certain type of bars, and you had idiots like me there who knew everything about it and could tell you about it and stuff like that. But nowadays, basically every bar has a selection of beers, and but not enough knowledge about that. So there was where the beer awareness, bierbewustzijn came in. We wanted to do training for people working in bars to get them a basic knowledge of beer and a basic vocabulary of beer, so to talk to their customers about it. So that's where training came in. So the top two are two training ventures we do, and we got some success with that. We already did some business with some of the larger breweries like Jopen and Gulpener, Duvel Moordgat, and Gouden Carolus, because it was an area where beer started booming, and there were so many festivals everywhere. And one of the people from Gouden Carolus, he said, like, by the way, I recently agreed to being on a festival, but I kind of forgot I have a marriage to go to attend, not his own, fortunately. But he said, "Could you stand there on the festival in my place? Because you can have everybody can draw a beer, but not everybody can tell the story they want to hear." So then we became kind of mercenaries of beer. So we went to festivals with other beers like Jopen and stuff like that so we could represent those beers on those festivals. And we started getting some business dealings with likes of Duvel Moordgat and some AB InBev. So we did trainings for Moordgat and InBev for basically their representatives could send us to any cafe or bar they wanted to have some extra knowledge about beer. And we went there, gave training, and basically hospitality training, tap training, but also the beer vocabulary training. That was on the side. We did some other ventures. I'm a historian by education, so it's always fun to talk about history. We do some tours in Nijmegen. Historical tours, because it's the oldest city in the Netherlands. And so that started out, and we're looking for a place to let beers age. So we got in touch with people from the church in Nijmegen, the Stephenskirk Church, and there was a cellar in there where we could age beers, but there were also two rooms that they used to use for like Bible study and stuff like that weren't used. So they said, well, you can give tastings here in the church. So well, that happened, and so we branched out to that. And also the bottom part here is like a fun little caravan we can do on festivals like this. It's sitting unused, the last year, but yeah, it's fun for the thing. So that's all the different things of activity we did with beer. So training, tours, tastings, beer and food combinations, and well, basically then COVID happened, and well, it was apparently our business, stopped to be. And then I read about some fellow who did some beer streaming, and I thought, well, I know some software, OBS, and I know green screen and how to use that. So basically, we started out as a gimmick for our customers to just to say, hey, we have something to do, and well, and then the second wave came, and it became apparent that we would be stuck with this for a long time. So we started really branching out in that. We make this beer packages, we mail them to customers. They got beers in there, and they got some printouts from the brewing process, like this, and periodic table of beers like this. They have some hops and some malts in there. Basically, some taste taste thing about we put into Skittles, so you can have them taste different. I'll just switch to that. We use the background from the Matrix here. Have a taste test. You take 2 Skittles and you put them in your hand, and then you close your nose, and then you put them in your mouth, one of them, and then you will taste sweetness and sourness, but you won't be able to tell which flavor you have. But only when you release your nose, then it's the orange one, and just some fun little things you can do. And it's always fun to see people on camera, like in a Zoom meeting, and they're holding the noses like that, and it's just a bit of fun. And then we basically do about 2 hours discussing all of 5 beers, and we taste them. We want to raise awareness of tastes, cheers there. To really make them appreciate flavors, to really concentrate on a taste whenever you put something new in your mouth, basically, food or a drink or whatever. And I'll tell a bit about the history of beer and the history of certain beer styles. And it's a fun get together in which people can experience a bit of togetherness and drinking together. We call it drinking together apart, basically, and that's the idea. And that became relatively successful. So because lots of businesses, they have budgets for outings with the staff, but what do you spend it on? So we have a lot of those, and actually COVID has been quite good for us due to the switch we made. So I just put a Hertog brewery in the background, and this way we can visit different breweries, and take people on a bit of a holiday. And that's basically why it works, because if it's just somebody talking about beer for 2 hours dryly, it doesn't work. But when you add in some pizzazz, you add in some interaction, want people to ask questions, the way it becomes interactive and becomes very fun. So
everything about your whole business approach to beer is absolutely fascinating to me. I mean, there's so many different avenues that I want to go down from what you talked about. First off, I think it's incredibly important what you do for the greater beer community as a whole, to focus on not just how to drink beer and what to look for in beer, but the vocabulary, the verbiage, the actual knowledge of beer. I was just recently talking with some people about a video I posted, and one of the big criticisms was verbiage and language and how people don't know that. So one, I think that's incredibly important. And just being a history guy, I'm just absolutely in love with everything that y'all are doing. So uh, let's take a step back real quick before we get too deep into that. So let's start with the Netherlands and beer in Netherlands. So I've visited a couple times. I'm drinking one of your local crafts. Um,
Yeah, I.
could you explain to people because in my visits there, I've actually greatly enjoyed all my beer experiences there, but I think a lot of Americans, in particular, when they think European beer, they think German, Czech, Belgian. Could you tell me just a little bit about what beer is like in the Netherlands? Both, maybe a little historical, but if you got it, but the craft scene too.
Yeah, sure. Well, Netherlands is always a bit of go between in the sense that it has a very beer culture, but it's influenced by German and Belgium because it's really clammed in between those. Um, so yeah, there's a bit of influence from both sides. And if you look at it historically, then we have been importing beer from Germany for a long time. We've been shipping beer, of course, because we're a huge nation of trade. Um, but yeah, the beer culture in the Netherlands, well, there's obviously a great deal about it, and it kind of follows the general rules. And that the 19th century industrialization came about. You have the big brands that popping up and gobbling things up, like the Heinekens, for instance, who's in difficult times buy out the small breweries and became bigger and bigger and bigger themselves. That's not a purely Dutch story. That's for about everywhere in the world. Um, and well, basically, there are some smallish breweries in Limburg, the southern part, really in the Belgium German corner. They were doing some other types of beer, like Dortmunder style, from German style, but then a little bit different. Um, but not that much in the scene of craft. Not that particular styles as you find in Belgium or in Germany. Um, so in the 80s, some breweries, you have a bottle from Het Ei from Amsterdam. Those started in the 80s, just like most American craft breweries started about this time, the early ones. But those were mainly looking at toward Belgium. If you were to drink, you have got an IPA from Het Ei now. They weren't making that. They were making a double, a triple, quadruple, like that, Belgian styles. For instance, in Nijmegen, there's a brewery that started out by making a wit beer. They made a wit beer that was bought up by AB InBev. So they sold it and they got it to InBev. It's Witte Raaf, the white raven. And so it was basically the first up notch in something other than regular Pilsner was the wit beer, which was like a Hoegaarden from Belgium. But yeah, all brewers want to have a wit beer as well. So Heineken, he bought up a brewery called De Ridder from Maastricht because they wanted a wit beer, and they made one. So they bought the brewery. We've got a wit beer, and then said screw the brewery, but yeah, we've got the brand. So this brewery from Nijmegen, they got bought out by InBev, and they started a new city brewery called the Hemel, the Heaven, and they made Belgian styles mainly. Of course, there were some breweries like that, the smaller breweries popping up throughout the Netherlands, but yeah, like everywhere else in the world, the big boom started a bit in the end of the noughties, where you get craft breweries, and also breweries like Het Ei, who go back and make those craft styles as well, because yeah, that's what sells, and that's what's popular. So basically that, yeah, in a nutshell, because yeah, there's lots more to say and lots more about the history of brewing in the Netherlands, but that's a bit beside the point. But that's where the Netherlands says it's not as distinctive beer culture as in Germany and Belgium. There are some ancient styles, and a brewery like Jopen, might have heard of. They started out by making historical styles, like a Koit, which is a goud beer, like with not with hops, but with rosemary, gakel. I don't know how you say gakel in English, but with different kind of herbs. And they made a hoppen beer, and they look at historical styles. And there's some researchers who did great things about truly Dutch beer styles, but those aren't really in the general knowledge. And I think mainly why you don't know much about beer is because basically Michael Jackson glossed this over a bit.
Yep. Yeah, I noticed before I go to any new country or location, even, you know, I like to go through and do some beer research. That way I can make some detours and everything. And I do think that the Netherlands has been greatly overlooked because, I mean, the craft beer that I've had there, fantastic. You know, even the bigger brands, I did the Heineken's VIP experience, everything, and that was an enjoyable tour and everything. And I saw that there was a whole lot of historical styles, like you mentioned, but a majority of them have seemed to have gone extinct, you know, only written records of, and not many active producers. And I do think that's incredibly sad because in Michael Jackson's book, I think he just completely overlooked y'all. And I think that hurt, like, you know, that industry.
Yeah, it's like that, but there's also that there's not a great many breweries that really dig out those ancient styles. Jopen made an effort to do that. The Hemel here in Nijmegen made an effort to do it. But there's relatively few of that, and it's not as somehow as hyped like before. Actually, the bottle of Gose behind you, which was a beer that nobody really heard of until, well, a couple of years ago, then when it started to get popular. But those beer styles were really, well, extinct, basically, for a couple of examples. The thing is, with most of the Dutch beer styles, they were extinct long before. One of the main Dutch beer styles, but they also share a name with a German beer style, like a Bock beer, the Bock, which is also a great cultural phenomenon. And it's a bit different from the German one, but it's not, you know, different enough for most people to perceive the difference.
So I've actually been doing a lot of research into Bock beer, and I was focusing on Dutch Bock beer. They from my research, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be a bit fuller body, a bit sweeter, and I'm not sure if the alcohol is higher, but it seemed to use just sweeter malts and things like that. And I've tried collecting a couple of Bock beers from the Netherlands for a future video, but in my drinking through them, I think I could tell a distinct difference of that culture, you know, in the beer apart from German beer.
Yeah, it's distinct. One of the great exceptions is that not all the German bocks are usually bottom fermented. Dutch bocks, well, it can be both ways. You know, they have top fermented. Usually, if you see the spelling with CK, then they referring to under fermented. But not all of them are like that. And you have a very range, like a very sweet one, like Grolsch, make a very sweet one, sickly sweet. And but you have also very hoppy ones and some more caramelized. But I think you were correct in saying that they tend to be a bit thicker and a bit more malty than the German counterparts. Certainly less hoppy, though there are exceptions. And certainly a bit more, yeah. There's also a great difference in taste, so I can't generalize too much, but a bit thicker. You have some bock beers that, for instance, from Hertog Jan, that kind of is very dark, like almost Schwarzbier dark. So yeah, there's a very succinct difference in bock beer. Like there is a difference with the Dutch of Limburg versions of Dortmunder, for instance. Those are all very different from German Dortmunder. So
So, getting back into your business of educating, the masses on beer. Um, I'm curious of the clientele. So, do you cater to enthusiasts? Do you cater to novices? Who are you really reaching out to try to go through these tasting sessions and educational things?
yeah, you see, well, from a business point of view, we've went one way, and I'll dig into that. But yeah, basically, we're available for like novices and enthusiasts as well. We kind of are in the process of making for instance, a training on passing the Cicerone CBS and Cicerone certified exams. So we're trying to reach into that. So like Cicerone is like with a driving school, they don't do the training, they just do the examination, and we do a bit of training in that. But what most of our clientele is through breweries, because like if you are a bar owner, most bar owners wouldn't invest that much, or some of them do, and they're in specialized places. Like the place I worked in, they would send you to beer education, but generally most owners wouldn't do that. So if you reach them through a brewery, and the brewery says, "Hey, I will invest partly in the training." Sometimes the bill is split, then they are more likely to participate in it. And so we work with Duvel Moordgat and with AB InBev, to name a few of the most heinous name in craft beer. But it's that's the way that makes it viable. We tend to grow out of that and make it more of a common theme, and that it's more reachable. So we're working on an online platform for that. But basically, most of our trainings are through those pathways, and we're trying to make it more accessible for general public through a web portal where people can maybe do the first steps themselves. Maybe even download a reader and then see if they can do the exam on their own, because it's basically possible. But yeah, we're still growing in that aspect. I mean, luckily we had some other things to fall back on, not only aiming for the one thing, but also doing infotainment, basically. That's a great strength. I think it's not only the teaching part. It's not only the tour and it's all those different parts apart. Wouldn't be able to make a living out of, but if you combine them, it kind of works. And luckily for us, we managed to improve.
One, like I said earlier, I do think all of that is incredibly important, especially when you're talking with, teaching people who are going to be working in the industry. Because, nobody wants to go pretty much to any beer establishment and, if they have any question or anything like that, and be turned away or, confused, especially if it's by, that person's own product, So I think that's incredibly important. When you go about looking for clientele and things like that, are you reaching out to these businesses or are they coming to you? Like
bit of column A, bit of column B. They were busy making a beer master program. But internally, they made some digital courses online, but they didn't really follow through on that in some aspects. So we kind of came in on that moment and said, well, we could do those things for you. And We had some other things, aspects we did from. Do you know about the barrel aged projects? What they do with Hertog Jan? Uh, so basically, it's a copy of the Goose Island barrel aged project, but with the Hertog Jan Grand Prestige, the barley wine from Hertog Jan. Um, and that was very awesome. They did some great, they did some things with Dutch Genevers, and this year's with whiskies. Brilliant beers, but it's kind of mirroring the Goose Island program. But what they wanted was to, they have a couple of, how do you call it? Focus a group of some bars through the Netherlands, which are their prime locations, and they wanted to make the clientele, make them part of the Vatgerijpt, the barrel aged program. So we went to those bars and gave a tasting for the people there, and told about the beers and why they were so special. But when you in an organization like that, things find a way. So my colleague just did a presentation for the sales team of AB InBev today in our studio to really hone in the story. So when you're in, you get passed around, and just the other day. Some guys from Delft University, they have a brew pub and they wanted to do something with beer and beer online experience. And one of the sales representatives of AB InBev says, "Oh, wait, I know the guy you should go to." So that's the networking. And if you're basically in that, then things started working out. Is it something I could really put down to as a business model that people could follow? Yeah, well, this business model of doing online tastings, that's something that really people in America could do as well. But what we're doing and the mix of things we're doing, just with the historical tours and stuff like that, and but to take our little things from everywhere, and which makes it interesting as well, because you're doing only one thing, it gets a bit boring. Couldn't really say how we came to be where we are, but hey, here we are, and we're making a living off beer. So hey,
it's incredibly interesting. Out of all the people I've talked to, I mostly focus on people who are trying to breach into the beer industry through a YouTube aspect and things like that, and just being able to, and a brewers and stuff like that too. But you're coming at it from an angle that is, I would say, not typical for most people who are trying to get into the beer industry. And like I've mentioned several times now, I do think what you're doing is both cool and important for the overall health of the beer industry. So, because not only does it better professionals, but it betters customers. If I was to attend one of your I don't think lecture is the right word, but educational seminars, what could I expect? What would I be looking for?
Well, that is, you call it educational seminars. There's a bit different levels. Like the thing we're doing now online with people, it's a bit of infotainment. So it's storytelling mainly, and it's background, history, stuff like that. It's fun. I say, which is the title I was granted by somebody from TV who made a little item about us, but the beer professor. So I always say, like, don't worry, there won't be a test, but there will be homework, and the homework is go drink more beer. So usually my students are quite okay with that. But if it's were to be a bit more seriously, like a training for a bar, for people working in a bar, it would be very basic beer knowledge. You really don't want them to have to memorize the entire brewing process like this. If you get people to learn all that, it gets complicated. Uh, so for that level, we would focus about, okay, what are the ingredients? What flavors do these ingredients bring? So if you perceive sweetness in a beer, well, it's mainly because it comes mainly from the malt. If you perceive bitterness, it comes from the hops. Yeah, it doesn't filter out a bit through my green screen, but there you go. So that's we say that's the basic character of the beer, the balance between hops and malts. That's the basic, base character. And then you could add things to them. What color is the beer? Is it a blonde beer? Is it a dark beer? So you can make a little phrase about a blonde, uh, pale ale, with overtones of, what do you, blonde, hop forward, pale ale, and then add some things that stand out to you with tones of citrus and stuff like that. If you can describe every beer on your menu in such a sentence, then you'll be effective in communicating to your customer. So that's why we teach. These are the flavors. This is where they come. This is where they come from, and this is how you can use them to form a sentence and describe beer. And try having people to train, tasting beer. But obviously you can't really force people to do that and do their homeworks and the thing. If you got only one moment of contact, you really can't enforce that. But just hammering down a bit of the of flavors of beer and how you can describe them helps a lot. And some aspects of proper serving techniques and stuff like that, like how do you clean a glass, beer clean glass, tap techniques and stuff like that. That will be all involved in that. If you go a step higher, and this is one of those steps when we just put a different background. I don't want to make too much commercial. That is why, for instance, our relations with AB InBev, one day we got a call saying that we got a group of trainees, and trainees in AB InBev are some of the best because it's a big business. And they usually get a week or 2 weeks a program going through all the different breweries, go to America and stuff like that. And they end up in Leuven in Belgium, where the European headquarters is. And they were meant to have a training there, a full day of program and training on beer. But their trainer was, ill or had something personal. He was supposed to fly over from America. So we got a last minute call. Can you go to Leuven and teach a group of trainees how to beer, basically? Because all these guys, they have backgrounds in, business or economics and stuff like that. But there's the general product about beer. So then I didn't do a college about, I did some basic tastes and stuff like that, and what we usually do, but also focused on what's the nature of the product of beer, because that's what you're going to be selling. And if you come from it from a pure commercial perspective, then you'll really won't nail it. It's an emotional product. You should know that, and that's how you should treat it. Because I've seen a lot of marketeer induced ideas with beer being completely wrong. Could go on a rant on that, but I won't. But really a difference on which level you're aiming for, and it's basically beer. Beer is a very culturally ingrained thing. It's very culturally different. One of the differences, I don't know if you noticed, between Germany and the Netherlands is the serving size. The Dutch beer, you get a fluitje, it's a small glass, or an Amsterdammertje, which is a quarter glass. But in Germany, it's all half liters, unless you go to Köln or Düsseldorf. There they have the small glasses. But it's a really difference in culture, because people in the Netherlands, if they sit in a bar, they will give rounds, or they will pool their bill, and they will say, okay, split it pay all of it, split it 8 ways or something like that. But in Germany, every customer will pay for their own drinks, and it's difference in culture, but also influence the way things served. Because if you have half a liters and you go like, oh, one round for me, and then you're on a table with 8. Well, some people can manage 8 half liters, but if you really want to have have everybody give a round, yeah, you have to have smaller glasses. So, and it's yeah, those things fascinate me about beer culture.
Do you or do you plan to expand the education of beer and food pairings? Because out of all my travels, out of everywhere I've been, beer and Dutch food just goes so well together.
Yeah, I'm interested in what you would consider to be Dutch food, because that's one other thing.
So, I've only been there, very limited amount of time, so I wasn't able to try everything, But, and don't make fun of me for mispronouncing. No. But it was so for desserts, obviously the stroopwafel and everything that was amazing, and I had some I'm not sure where, but I got some stouts and I paired them with the stroopwafel and oliebollen. Yeah, that was amazing. That just, I think I actually had that with a Belgian Creek, and the flavors just went so well together. Just the oily, fried, sweet ball, and the tartness and sourness of it. I can't remember the name of these. I want to say bitterballen.
Bitterballen,
yeah. Those were fantastic. I had those at the Trappist Brewery Koningshoven, and they made some fantastic food, and I tried the raw herring, the raw fish. I could not do that one so much.
It's an acquired taste.
But the fried version, that went well. I could have eaten that every single day with and I drank it with pilsners and wit beer and everything. Everything just worked. And I'm honestly not a person who actively tries to seek out beer and food pairings. It just doesn't work out oftentimes for me. But I don't think I had a single negative experience in the Netherlands with that. So I think that's a prime market. Is that something that you're interested in dabbling in?
Yes, certainly. One of the core philosophies. I often say, back when I started out in beer, it was a time where you really had to entice people to try something else, like something more obscure. Most people were still like, oh no, just give me regular beer. It's good. I don't need this stuff. But people started seeking it out and interested in it. And you see now it's very generalized that people try something else, but the regular pilsner and stuff like that. I hope that's my mission statement. I hope to achieve that with food and beer pairing, because it's just so many possibilities with that. And I started out with that. I was just working in a bar at Samson. Samson is the name of the bar, by the way. When I got approached by Michelin's third chief in the area, and he kind of surprised me. He said, like, I need to make a food and beer pairing for a blog. And my wife is my sommelier and she doesn't know anything about beer. So can you help me out? And that was my first experience with that. So I worked with him and I was like, yeah, this is interesting. We can go places with that. So I kind of started trying out things with that. That's what my main advice for people wanting to do something more with food and beer. Try stuff out, because we exchanged it. One day venue we would start out with the beers, so I would select some beers and he would think about foods to cook with it, and then we turn it around. He came with foods and I would select the beers to go with it. And just by experimenting and discovering things, you learn what works, what doesn't, and sometimes nowadays even still I've got loads of experience at it, but sometimes you think of something and it doesn't work, it doesn't work at all, and then you drink that and then you say something maybe, and then put another bottle and clang, bang, spectacular. And it's that aspect that's really intriguing to me, and well, yeah, I hope that it would be more general. And well, the pairings you used, I would do one suggestion for the next time you're in the Netherlands.
Please.
First one, visit Nijmegen so we can drink a beer together. But
I would love that.
second one is smoked eel.
Ooh.
So this is not this won't be. Yeah, well, it doesn't look that all that sexy because it's really an eel. You strip the skin from it, but the smoked eel is excellent. It's really becoming rarer and rarer because it's overfished. But smoked eel, and then have smoked beer with it. It's kind of and the stroopwafels. Eat if you drink a nice trappist with it. You went to Koningshoeven, so the Trapkoor Druppel.
Yeah.
Have that with stroopwafels or crème brûlée.
Ooh. Oh man, that actually sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Since we were talking, it reminded me. One morning while in Amsterdam, I picked up I can't remember the name of it. The Dutch pancake thing.
Yeah.
And I actually had a wit beer with it, and the lemon and the sugar and the cinnamon and everything with that fried character. That's another fantastic pairing. That's what I'm saying. I think y'all have one of the best cuisine to beer pairings. I tried to drink local as much as I could while I was there, and I've lived in Germany for several years now, and there's some good stuff here, but I have not found that harmony here that I have found there. So
it's a great one if you perceive it that way. We Dutch, we tend to be a bit shy about our cuisine because we have those kind of outliers like the stroopwafels and the bitterballen, and those are really special. But if you talk about really dishes, so you have the Pulp Fiction kind of slaughter, the mayonnaise, and that's fun. It's fun and it's delicious, I think. But it's not the best culinary.
No.
And then you have the mashes. We have a bazillion different mashes, mashed kale and mashed carrots, the different kind of mashes that. But I once did a food pairing with Schenkelaar Rauchbier from Bamberg. You know that. Well, we have a dozen kind of mashes, and you have endive mash with little bits of bacon, fried bacon. And usually it's served with smoked sausage. And we have one Hema. It's one of the shops they make smoked sausage. Everybody knows that in the Netherlands. But if I were to describe the Schlenkelaar Rauchbier to any Dutch guy, I would say, think of liquid Hema sausage. Our chef made a bitterball filled with endive stew with the bacon bits.
Oh man!
And then had the Rauchbier as the sausage to go with it. It was the liquid sausage. So that was fun. But generally, the cuisine is I'm glad you perceive it that way, because usually we would say, well, the French are way better than us in cuisine and stuff like that.
I think we've ran through the majority of the questions that I had pre. Is there anything in particular that you want to talk about, you want to focus on? Anything, beer, your business, whatever.
Really, Anthony, it's good to have met each other, and I've talked a bit. My wife is on the way to pick me up in a couple, so I think we were fine leaving it at this. But
I've come up with a few ideas.
It would be nice to stay in touch and do some more discussing about this. I mean, We're practically neighbors and stuff like that. Nijmegen is,
Yeah.
I can see the German border from here, manner of speaking. No, but yeah, I think we'll stay in touch. Maybe do some exciting things um, like for instance, we have a nice tasting of beer and whiskey, which we're doing tomorrow, and which really tickles my bone. The last couple of months, I've been working with a beer with a whiskey connoisseur and making this pretty much the same thing as doing the food and beer combinations. We came together like he knows everything about whiskey.
Hmm.
I know a bit about beer. Let's see what we can do together. And there's some spectacular things in there. So yeah, maybe when we do
Hmm.
one of those tastings, we tomorrow it's for a company, but we do some
Hmm.
um, for a general either YouTube audience or like the one I showed you.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to talking with you again.
See you, Anthony. Best wishes to your girlfriend, wife. I don't know. It's wife. Yeah, I will do the same to mine. See you later. Bye bye.